The original version of this video was uploaded to Jason Verney's YouTube channel, where it and many other videos, podcasts, snippets and films can be found. That channel can be found at youtube.com/Jason Verney. This is the Not So Korean podcast. I am Jason Verney. As you probably know, we started this podcast back in 2021 and used to record this live in UK's Koreatown itself. That's an area in and around New Malden. Yes, that's the largest Koreatown and Korean community in Europe. These days, we bring you such episodes and therefore information and interviews from various places in the world, including Korea itself. This is the Not So Korean podcast. I am Jason Verney. In this particular episode, it's one of our not so long Korean podcasts. So instead of it being abbreviated to the NoSoKoPo, it would be NoSoLOKoPo. And we started these episodes earlier in this season too, and we kind of wanted to put them into the series when we wanted to talk about something that was not perhaps significant to a whole episode, to a long episode, but at the same time being some interesting stories or subjects that relate to Korea, a specific subject perhaps. In this one, this episode revolves around numbers. Kind of, if you see the thumbnail or if you see the image on the podcast itself, it's something like 5 in 1, 1 to 5, or easy like 1, 2, 3, see. Now that was really just a play on words and just a way to sort of get that in the title. But there's something called 한달살기. Now I apologise if I butcher that or if I don't say it correctly. I'm reading the Hangul. But since I've been living here or staying here in Chiang Mai, and this is several months now, and I've gone to Korea once. I went to Korea for the 10-year anniversary of SEWOL for April. I stayed about 6 weeks. I also went to Vietnam before that. But essentially, I've been staying in Chiang Mai since late 2023. Earlier in this year, somebody said to me, a Korean friend actually, who I met here, an artist friend, actually said to me about 한달살기. What it is, it essentially translates to 1 month living, or I think if you use something like Google Translate, it translates to living for 1 month. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, because that's Google Translate, and that could be wrong. I've heard quite a few little bits about this, but this episode is not solely about this. I'm going to add a few bits of information of things that are happening this month, relating to Korea and Korea itself, me going to Korea, and also in the next couple of months or so. But let's just concentrate on this. 한달살기, as it sounds, is 1 month living, and essentially Koreans come here. And now I mentioned in a previous podcast episode about Nha Trang in Vietnam, where lots of Koreans visit there. I think they also do similar thing to elsewhere in Vietnam, maybe Da Nang especially. And I mean, these places are beautiful places. They're also good value for money, and that's for Koreans or for me, for anyone. And to some extent, the people, the Thais or the Vietnamese, let's say, sorry, for them as well. Now, obviously, there's different standards of living for us and perhaps Thai people, or there's wealthy Thais, there's less than wealthy Thais, and less, there's wealthy Vietnamese, there's less than wealthy Vietnamese. What I'm trying to get at is that the Koreans will go there. Now, whether that term, 한달살기, it relates to Vietnam as well, I believe it would do. But in Chiang Mai especially, here in Thailand, it's definitely well known. I heard it spoken to me on more than one occasion and I've asked people about it, and Koreans, I've met lots of Koreans here. In fact, there's a Korean related person I'm going to mention in this episode. So Koreans, essentially it's what it says it is, really, 1 month living. So certain Koreans will come to Chiang Mai. Let's just say Chiang Mai, let's make it easy and stick with Chiang Mai. Now, I've actually met a Korean friend over here. In fact, there was a Korean friend recently. We couldn't quite meet up, but I've met more than one Korean friend here, either accidentally or intentionally. And Koreans, any Koreans out there, they're new. Some Koreans, they come here for 1 month. It's as simple as that. Some, like one woman I spoke to this week, one lady, she's actually staying. She's opted to make it another month, I think. So she might have had 1 month. She's made it 2. And Koreans generally, as far as I'm aware, they get 90 days. Kind of the visa situation is easy. You get kind of granted 90 days, which is a bit different to someone like myself from the UK. But 90 days you've got, and yeah, people come over here and they use up that month. Now, I'm not entirely sure, and maybe you can fill me in on this, but I'm not too sure if it's they might, or you guys, if you're Korean listening, build up those few weeks of holiday you might get into 1 month. Because I've also heard the kind of maybe 1 or 2 oppositions to this, the fact that Koreans might do this, is because they might have a job, they will have a job, they leave that job, but they don't rush to get another job, which is absolutely fine in my opinion, and they use that time to come here. So the way I would look at it is, it's kind of like students take a gap year, that they take a whole year off in some countries and they travel to Asia or elsewhere. But in this respect, Koreans, or you, if you're Korean listening, will come here to Chiang Mai and then go back to Korea, and they've either sorted out a job or they haven't, But either way, it's a breathing. It's instead of it being a gap year, it's like a gap month. That's the way I would explain it. But at the same time, there's people that do. There was Koreans here that would, 90 days they do as well. And also because of that, because of Chiang Mai and the kind of person it attracts, which it attracts people that want to live here, expats, long-term, short-term. It also attracts digital nomads. There's loads of temples to see, and as I say, it's kind of a hotspot or hub for digital nomads. So even if you take 1 month, you could still be doing that. You could be moving around or taking 1 month from your remote job that you have in Korea and coming to Chiang Mai. But because you've got a 90-day visa, why not? I met some artists who are now my friends, I guess. So they stayed here for 90 days because they could, and they loved it. They loved, there's a great cafe that I go to, Magic Brew, and there's loads of people coming in. Sort of, it's like Chiang Mai itself, it can be quite transient, but at the same time, it's people make friends and bond quite easily, I would say, especially compared to perhaps 1 or 2 other, let's say, expat cities in Thailand. This is where people come to, relax. It's not a crazy city like Bangkok. It's not a party city. It's more of it's got those elements to it in places. And there's a whole student area near where I'm staying. In fact, where I'm actually staying right now, I won't drift into this topic too much, but it is quite studenty where I am. But I didn't think that at first. I didn't really notice that. There's lots of young Thais here, but they often also congregate, I suppose, in Niman, and these areas are near the big university here, so it makes sense. But you also get Koreans that might be studying there, you get Chinese people that might be studying there. So this 1 month Korean 한달살기 is, as I say, 1 month living. So that's kind of what this episode really was, just to briefly talk about, because I would like to get people's insights and knowledge and know-how on this to learn more. I'm speaking to people all the time. I'm on a forever learning journey anyway, whether I'm traveling or not. I just wanted to sort of put that out there. There is Now this episode, as I say, is a short one. It's really covering the numbers 1 to 5, or with the different numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so that first element I wanted to talk about was, there's one more thing. Koreans can come over here and use certain ASEAN countries, or if not all, can now interact with a payment method. If they've got it in their country, they can use it here. For example, if they've got a QR code, it might be implemented now into the UK, but when I was last there, I don't think it was happening. But Korea, let's just stick to South Korea and Thailand. They both have banks which allow QR code payments. You can pay for anything. In Thailand, you can pay for something that's as small as a 20 baht bag of fruit. Pineapple, watermelon, whatever, and that's like 43 pence or something, and you can scan. In fact, it's become so popular now, it's quite rare that people are actually using cash. But for Koreans that come here, that's another ease of use. I'm still trying to figure out whether Thais can do the same, and this is another thing that I wanted to just touch on. Although it's really good this for Koreans, there's so many Koreans here. I go to the shopping centre up the road or other areas, and loads, but it makes that easy. But what I was going to say was, when Thais, there is an issue when Thais go to Korea, and this is probably more of a kind of maybe political, but Thais are not finding that easy to get into Korea now, into South Korea, because there was something illegal found, or some workers found in South Korea, and they kind of made it really difficult for Thais. And I know this because I've got Thai friends that have been over there or wanted to go over there. But I'm not going to, go into too much about that. But it is a bit odd, because you've got, the Koreans, and you guys, if you are Koreans listening out there as well, then you've got it really good. You've got things very, positive for you, and maybe Thais haven't got that. And I'm not sure if they do get in there, can they use the bank account in Thailand? Can Thai people use it to pay for things in Korea? That's what I'm trying to say. Koreans can use it here to pay for Thai things. So this first little element is 1 month. So it's number 1 month Koreans, 3 months. They can stay up to 3 months. I also had a chat to, I'm going to mention a couple of interviews in a second, but I spoke to Tim, so former host or occasional co-host Timothy Holm, who was in the first series, and once briefly I think in the second series, or a couple of times. So we had a 2 or 3 hour, so one call that lasted 2 or 3 hours with Tim, and it was really good. It was really nice to catch up. We did speak about a few Korean things, but we spoke about life and some family things and stuff that was going on in our lives, and it was really nice catch up to speak to you. So Tim, if you're listening, it was really nice, and let's do it again sometime. So the other thing before I get onto those interviews is, and this revolves around the number 1 and the number 2, and what I mean is I've got one more trip to Korea already, and I didn't expect this, but I'm going to go into that in the next episode, in the more full-length episode, and also elaborate on these interviews in that episode, go into why I'm going there. If you go to miniminimovie.com, you can probably, if you check out 1 or 2 articles, you can probably find out why. But it's twice this year, and it's quite funny or weird, because I wasn't intending to. I'm not enjoying constantly traveling. So I came back to Thailand, came back to Chiang Mai, and I thought I will settle. And then I got an invitation to be part of a film festival that's happening, and I'm going to stop there, because as I say, I don't want this to be this is not the main episode about that. So that's coming up. Yes, speaking of interviews, there's a Korean woman I spoke to here, and her name is Fran, and it was one evening. We actually hung around and chatted and ate or whatever for was it coffee, tea? I can't remember now. For 4 hours. So there's the number 1, number 4. I'm just ticking these off. This is how my mind works. So There's going to be an interview with Fran, and she's got a really interesting story regarding where she's lived. She's lived in different countries, and that's going to come up eventually in this series. It will either be, she's actually got a YouTube channel herself, and I'll try and put a link in the description for that. But there's an interview where I'm kind of interviewing her, but talking about certain things that she's done in her life that's Thai related. And some of that interview, if not a bit more that we might record, will be in a future episode of this Not So Korean podcast. I also met Joe. Now, if anybody knows which Joe I'm talking about, it's Joe McPherson. He is, he's involved with the Dark Side of Seoul tours, but more primarily he's known for his culinary sort of expertise, and he is going to feature in an upcoming episode an interview. So he's got lots of experience. I first met him 10 years ago in London, bizarrely enough, not in Korea. He runs Zen Kimchi. So again, the number there is one. Basically, I had one more interview, and it was with Joe, and we had 2 meetings. He was in Chiang Mai. He's been to Thailand before, but he'd never sampled the Thai food in Chiang Mai, or the Thai, Chiang Mai's got its own style for certain foods, and he, it's a place that he really wanted to come to. So we met up on 2 occasions, and one of those, it was agreed that we would do an interview. So we've got 2 interviews coming up. But as a side note, I have recently set up a podcast completely separate to this. I already run the Micro Budget Filmmakers podcast, which you can find on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Jason Verney. But you can also find it on its own channel, and that's the Micro Budget Filmmakers. It's MBF brackets Micro Budget Filmmakers, because obviously that term, that word, that sort of group of words, micro budget filmmaking, is not exclusive to what we do, me and this little collective, but I'm the one that hosts it. And if you look up that and type in MBF and Jason Verney, it'll probably come up on my channel or that channel. But the third podcast that I've created, and I was just keeping this sort of low key, because I've been walking in various streets and areas in Chiang Mai, and there's so much to talk about here. I don't want to become like a YouTuber. I thought, let me bring the podcasts, let me bring the audio, the feel that I get in audio, but walking the streets and talking about certain areas, certain places. There's even one episode where I talk about a chain of small convenience stores, which maybe a small franchise, let's say, is run by Korean. But I'm also introducing into that series, and this series is called Chiang Mai Chatter. So it's Chiang Mai Chatter. Now it should come up if you use Chiang Mai together or Chiang Mai Chatter. But I'm now introducing interviews into that. So you can find that on all the same audio platforms as this one and the MBF, the Micro Budget Filmmakers one. But the reason I'm mentioning is that 1 or 2 people that I will have interviewed in Chiang Mai will appear perhaps there and also on Not So Korean podcast, or there'll be a mix that half the interview will be relevant for Chiang Mai, half will be relevant for Korea. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to get that off. So we've got 1 month Koreans, or up to 3 months they might stay, and there's lots of various ways of looking at it. You can find YouTube videos. If you're Korean, you probably know this already, but you can type 한달살기 into YouTube, and there'll be people talking about 1 month living and what they get in their condo and all that kind of stuff. As I say, I had one call with Tim, which lasted 2 or 3 hours. It probably wasn't 3, but when you think about the messages either side of it, it probably was. Messaging each other, setting it up, talking after. One evening with Fran, that's Korean Fran, and that was a 4-hour meeting, just various things, talking about lots of things, and also kind of conducting some sort of interview. One more interview with Joe, and that was 2 meetings. We actually had 2 meetings in Chiang Mai, and one more trip to Korea, which that is coming the end of September. So this episode I'm recording right now that you are listening to is early September, and the next episode will probably be just before or just as or just after I've flown to Korea. But the reasons for that I'm going to hold until that episode, although if you follow me in other social media you might get an inkling as to you might get an idea as to why that's happening, and I'd like to think that it's actually me being in Korea 3 times in 1 year, because I left in December 2023. I went again really early. I never normally go this early, that soon. I went in early April, and now I'm going in end of September. So it's kind of 4 months between, and I never really that hasn't really happened before. So, and this will be my 11th trip. So that's it. I just wanted to keep it kind of short and tell you what we've got coming up. All right. We'll see you or speak to you in the next episode. Goodbye for now. 안녕히 계세요. Well, we hope you enjoyed that episode. So that's all from us. 안녕히 계세요. The original version of this video was uploaded to Jason Verney's YouTube channel, where it and many other videos, podcasts, snippets and films can be found. That channel can be found at youtube.com/Jason Verney.